Good morning, gamers. It is a great time to talk about the glory of PlayStation because there is a lot of conversation around PS5 and PS4 exclusives lately. How long are we going to be getting PlayStation 4 games? How many PlayStation 5 games are supposed to be coming out in 2022? Well, at the heart of this conversation is a single title, a major project that still just seems to be incredibly elusive, which is God of War Ragnarok. But today, we just had what seems to be the official release date confirmed, and it's relatively soon for how tiny we've seen of it. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Now, please, before we start to dig into the details and dates, do me a favor and like this video. Let's see if we can get this to 3,000 likes. I don't know if that's possible, but we're going to find out. Also, please subscribe. Now, let's dig into the details. So what we have here is a tweet from Nibel where he discovered a official ratings board entry for God of War Ragnarok. Now, what's happening is very specific here. So in Korea, they're more strict about how long it takes to get a game actually rated. Now, what this means is that the same way that whenever you see an American game, you see this little rating on the box that says it's rated M for mature or rated T for teen or whatever like that. Well, essentially, in Korea, they require that you submit a game a couple months before it comes out so they can, well, sort of approve it. They need to make sure it's not too violent or too crazy or having 9 separate nipples flying around. Well, inside the official ratings board entry, it says that the game is based on Norse mythology and it has the adventures of Kratos and his son Atreus. Now, apparently, it's also going to have lots of profanity-filled conversation, including what I think is the word "fuh" and "dicks," which is fantastic. It's got direct drug expression, which they have this little symbol here. But why is this good? You may be seeing this and going, okay, Dreamcast guy, ratings boards are great, but when does this really become a video game? Okay, so that's nice. It's cool that this is being rated. I'm glad that it's, coming out. But what does this actually mean? Well, Pio here does a great breakdown. Every single time we've seen a Korean ratings board entry, the game itself has come out with just in a couple months. Like right here, Ratchet & Clank PS5, it was rated in Korea in February. The game came out in June. Horizon Forbidden West was rated in November. It came out in February. Essentially, this seems like it is coming out in September. Now, that is very, very close. Now, part of the reason I am just so stunned by this is because, for the most part, it feels like Sony has been incredibly silent. They have been tweeting tiny stuff here and there about the accessibility options of God of War Ragnarok, talking about the developers have been very, very open that the game is, in fact, coming in 2022. They've doubled down, they've tripled down. They have said explicitly, time and again, that the game is definitely coming out in 2022, but a lot of us still keep saying, okay, well then why haven't we seen it? Okay, that's great, but where is it? We're not seeing the game. We haven't seen that much of it other than a couple 2 and 3 minute trailers. We still haven't seen raw gameplay of a person holding a controller and ripping apart monsters. But I think that's all about to change. Now, here's what's funny. There is now a bunch of merch for God of War Ragnarok that's accidentally being posted over on the website called Geeky Zone in the UK. Now, it's interesting. Everything in these listing sites says something is releasing in September. All of the stuff right here says the game is releasing in September, or all the merch is releasing in September. Now, typically, when it comes to Sony especially, they like to try and line up merchandise with the game as closely as possible. Sony uses this marketing tactic called the thunderclap, where the whole idea behind it is that they want to try and make sure that reviews drop close to the game being released, special editions are announced whenever the pre-orders actually go live, gameplay and stuff is all being talked about at once. They want to make sure that whenever they drop news for a game, it takes over the entire internet and you can give them money. Now, this is good and bad. I do think that it sometimes leads to too much silence from Sony because they're constantly trying to prepare 15 tiny things in different drops simultaneously. But in this case, I do think it's cool that the idea of God of War Ragnarok coming in September, along with apparently a big old batch of merch, seems incredibly hyped. Now, part of the reason to me that it makes so much sense that we're still getting God of War Ragnarok in September September is because there's several other release dates we have to keep in mind. This is a pretty full year for Sony. We're still getting, obviously, there's a lot of marketing going on right now for Hogwarts Legacy, which is going to be cross-platform, but Sony is clearly trying to hype that up. There's also Forspoken, which is still, like, I think it just got rated in Korea as well. That game is supposed to be coming possibly in November, and then there is talks of Final Fantasy 16 in something like November or December. So it could really just be bam, bam, bam. A big release in October, a big release in September, a big release in November, everything to keep you buying games throughout the entire holiday season. But I guess right now, we do have the gigantic question mark of when are we going to see God of War Ragnarok? Obviously, we're coming up here just a couple weeks away from when E3 usually happened. Now, obviously this year, instead of having the typical E3 fanfare, we're having Summer Games Fest, which for better or for worse is going to be much more stretched out. Jeff Keighley and his gang of crazy freaking game heads are going to be playing a lot of stuff and showing off a lot of stuff. But additionally, in fact, I want to pull this up right now while I'm talking. So I'm actually pulling this up in the middle of filming this video because I feel like it is a very important tweet to sort of just get into your head right now as we go into Summer Games Fest, and keep in mind the idea of what Sony may be up to, which says this: I am particularly happy with how much raw gameplay we are going to be showing at Summer Games Fest on June 9th. Lots of trailers, but some really great gameplay sequences too. Now, this is so incredibly important. Like, more than anything else, I feel like so many of these companies keep trying to have just stupid teaser trailers or dumb logos and not enough talk and raw gameplay. I want to see the game in action. I want to see leveling trees. I want to see somebody get uppercutted so hard their innie becomes an outie. I want to see all that delicious, gory goodness. And God of War Ragnarok is something that comes to mind. Now, if I recall correctly, technically, Sony is not part of Summer Games Fest. Microsoft is, to some degree. I think Nintendo is to some degree. But it seems like what's going to happen is that everybody is sort of following the Jeff Keighley train of thought of still keeping all the big hype, all the big announcements in June, but people doing their own individual showcases. So to me, it seems incredibly obvious that Sony wants to come out and talk about the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 of 2022 sometime during this month. Now, part of the reason I'm so excited about it is because God of War Ragnarok, I just want to see huge chunks. I want to see an entire 30-minute state of play completely dedicated to why this game is going to be great, because probably they're going to do that. But additionally, talk about the other stuff coming in 2022. Talk about Forspoken. Talk about Final Fantasy 16. There keeps being rumors that have been floating around about a Final Fantasy 16 demo. And let me tell you, baby, I want that game more than I want oxygen. Give me a demo right the freak now so I can at least get a taste of glorious Final Fantasy goodness. But what do you think about all this? Are you excited about 2022 when it comes to the PlayStation 5? It's still crazy that these numbers are getting so big, but tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And are you excited for God of War Ragnarok? Tell me your thoughts. Please, if you could, like the video and subscribe, but also just keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.